Welcome to the Making Hay podcast with Marcia Miller from RFG Advisory. In this podcast, we help veterinarians, from new graduates to seasoned practitioners, navigate the sometimes tricky waters of personal finance. We all know the saying, making hay while the sun shines. As cheesy as it sounds, it represents a lot of what we help people do in their financial lives and businesses. We know each of you faces unique challenges, and we're here to offer advice tailored just for you, anchored in service, stewardship, and a genuine understanding of your profession. Join Marcia Miller, your guide on this journey. Marcia has spent over 25 years in financial services, and her passion is helping vets like you get a handle on your finances. Tune into each episode as we meet at the intersection of veterinary practice and financial management. With help from expert guests and insights from Marcia's own experience, we're going to tackle your biggest financial questions head on.
Well, hello and welcome to the Making Hay podcast with your host, Marcia Miller. Marcia, nice to be with you again. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Bill. I am doing wonderful. Good to see you. Happy spring.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's finally beginning to sort of feel like spring. I don't want to jinx it because I'm ready for warm weather.
Right.
I'm ready for hot weather, but I'm ready for some warm weather.
Yeah, me too. In the South, it always gets cold one more time around Easter. So I'm expecting another like really cold snap, but we'll try not to jinx it.
Let's hope it's not that cold.
Absolutely.
Today is part 3 of an ongoing conversation you've been having with Matt. And
Yes.
I'm looking forward to finishing up that conversation.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I am super excited about this particular episode because it's phase 3 of retirement, which is retirement planning. You've actually reached retirement. And the reason I'm so excited about it is I've spent about the last 20 years having this as a focus. So even if you're talking to someone who's 25 or 30 years old, the end game is retiring, right? So super excited about it.
Yeah, as long as you're not getting ready to talk about you're excited because you're getting ready to retire.
Oh, heck no.
That's all right.
Absolutely not. I got a long, long ways for that. But I think that it's kind of the ultimate thing I do for clients is help them get there and continue that journey through retirement and live the best life they can. So I love talking about it. So this is phase 3, the first phase. Matt, will you give us a little recap of the last 2 episodes?
Yeah, of course. We're in phase 3. So the last couple episodes, we discussed the accumulation phase and spoke about emergency funds, student loans, debt repayment, and then starting and setting up your investment accounts, whether that be a 401k at work or just an individual investment account. And then next step is the pre-retirement phase, which was our second episode. And we really kind of took a deeper dive into the different buckets of assets between taxable accounts, tax-free accounts, and tax-deferred buckets. And then this last phase that we're speaking on today is the retirement phase. And we'll take a little deeper dive into what that looks like and speak about different topics such as income and kind of estate planning.
Awesome. Thank you for the recap. So I always consider financial planning to be kind of like putting together a puzzle. I've said this before on my podcast. You've got a 1,000-piece puzzle. You get all the pieces out, you turn them all over, you put the edges together, all this and that, right? And so now this episode is about putting together the pieces of the financial planning puzzle together and putting them into action. You know, you've arrived, you're close to retirement, you're planning your last year or whatever, or maybe you're full-fledged in retirement already. That's what we're talking about today, and just the importances of planning, making sure that you're articulating to your advisor. Hopefully your advisor is asking you questions about like, what is your lifestyle about? What do you want to have in retirement? What is your goals? What are your fears? And really getting to know you, because that's super important. Just making sure that you work too with a distribution planner, someone who has experience in that distribution phase. I always like to say that because just kind of to give you an example, Matt, let's just say that I tell you, hey, Matt, I'm going to take you on a vacation and I'm going to pick you up tomorrow morning at 8:00. What's your first question to me?
Where are you taking me?
Absolutely. Good question. If you didn't know where I was taking you, you really wouldn't know how to pack, all right? You wouldn't know whether to take a swimsuit or ski clothes or what in the world would you need. And kind of in my experience, I've found that to be true with financial planning. I've looked at statements and financial plans for people, and they all look the same. they all look identical. And it's because maybe the planner that they were working with packs the suitcase the same for every single person that walks through the door. So I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to make sure that you're working with someone, and definitely get professional help, that is really listening to you and creating that plan of action that's for you and your family, that's personal to your goals and aspirations and what you want to have accomplished in retirement.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I think the important piece is really vocalizing your goals and dreams. And then we can kind of back into the plan. And like you said, we see it so often where, I mean, it just kind of seems like some advisors will come in and just fit everybody into the same plan. And not everybody has the same goals and dreams. And so that's super, super important.
Yeah, we were just talking with someone recently, a younger veterinarian, who I mentioned whether you want to work till you're 65 or longer, because a lot of veterinarians do. They are so passionate about what they do. They're like, I can't see myself not working. But maybe that future looks like working 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Or maybe it's retiring in your 50s so you can go live on a beach somewhere. So just make sure that your partner, your financial advisor, sees the same vision that you do, and they're asking you questions around that. So I think that's so, so important. So today we're going to discuss the importance of figuring out how all your goals can be accomplished, looking at your financial resources, having that plan, having a retirement budget, as boring as that sounds. No, we're not telling you have to keep a written budget, but we do need to make sure that how much you're spending each year fits into the overall plan. And that can be reassessed on an annual basis or even more frequently as needed. Let's go into the first thing, talking about income sources. Really, this is the holy grail of retirement planning. It's all that you've accumulated all this money. Now it comes down to the distribution. What are some sources of income that you see a lot, Matt, to come in and talk to us?
Yeah, mainly with veterinarians, we see Social Security, the sale of a practice. Maybe they sold their practice and they retained ownership of the corporate real estate, and they maintain a lease to their buyer. Some veterinarians do some relief work on the side. And then lastly, which is not common, is pensions as well.
Or maybe the spouse has a pension.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we want to take in those guaranteed sources of income. That's the first step. We're going to look at the Social Security for sure. And if there is a spousal pension or some sort of pension, if you worked in a corporate setting, and see what the total income goal is. And then we want to see what the gap is. So we want to see what the shortfall is between how much you need to bring in into the household on a monthly basis income-wise and those set fixed places of income. And then we want to figure out how to solve for that income stream and make sure it lasts for your entire lifetime. What are some strategies for optimizing those income streams? Is there anything else that you can think of, Matt, that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, a couple things. Kind of going back to our second episode about the different buckets of money, breaking down between taxable, tax-free, and tax-deferred. I think just spend time thinking about what is the most tax-efficient way to have those income streams, and just be aware of your federal tax brackets. I mean, if we have income coming in from real estate and we're bordering a tax bracket in the short term, it may make sense to look at our taxable and tax-free accounts. If we are deferring some income, it may make sense to look at other buckets as well. So I think that's very, very important when it comes to income planning.
Absolutely. Tax implications are tremendous, and it may even get worse in the future if we see tax rates continue, or we know current tax rates are expiring January 1st, 2026. We need to have an episode on that very soon.
Yes.
But we know that's happening, but we don't know what the future of tax rates. In my opinion, they're probably going up if I had to guess. We don't really have time on this episode to talk about Roth conversions, but a lot of times people will come to us when they're in this phase. The retirement phase is when you're right at approaching retirement. And they've accumulated money a lot of times because of their age in traditional 401k or IRA accounts, so tax deferred accounts. They really didn't have a lot of exposure in their younger years to Roth IRAs. We know that we preach that to everyone who walks in the room. If you have a Roth, contribute to a Roth. If you don't have a Roth, let's help you get a Roth. So all those things. But there's also, to your point about tax planning, the ability to do a Roth conversion. And we'll have an episode on that as well. But that is just something that we want to put out there for your thoughts. If you have questions on that, certainly let us know. But Roth conversions are a very incredible tool for some people if used correctly and done at the right time. But there's a lot of variations to that. Let's talk a little bit about sequence of returns, kind of a lesser talked about risk in
Mhm.
retirement. It's something that doesn't have any really problem with younger people because they have this huge time horizon. But talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you probably have a story for us, but just for a lot of advisors talk about sequence of returns, and just for our listeners out there, just a high level, what that is a sequence of returns in retirement. So year one in retirement through year five, what are the market conditions for our portfolio? And like the worst case scenario is we retire year one and we enter into recession and the S&P is down 35%. And how does that impact our plan? And so there's some strategies that we can put in place to mitigate that risk, that we kind of use a bucket strategy to protect against those income in those first few years, just so we don't slip and fall in bad market conditions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like if you just had bad timing and retired in like maybe 2008, when the market was down for 3 years, then 2 or 3 years, you would really probably have a very bad start to retirement if that was just taking distributions out of your normally invested portfolios. I like to give a story. You know, I'm all about a story. I love this story. It's about Mount Everest and rock climbers, mountain climbers. It's kind of the epitome of success, is if you were able to scale and reach the peak of Mount Everest. And the people who try this are the most skilled, knowledgeable, intelligent climbers that exist. And what's crazy to me is that 200 people, over 200 people, again, with incredible skill, have actually died on Mount Everest. And the even more crazy thing is, out of those 200 plus people, 85% of those people have died coming down the mountain. And so it's a great analogy to the series that we're just in right now, the 3 phases of retirement. So as you're going up that mountain, you're in the accumulation phase. So the climber is just ascending slowly but surely. They train hard for how to scale the mountain, right? And then you get up closer to the top of the mountain, and that's kind of pre-retirement that we had our last episode on. And then when you reach the summit, then that's when, hey, I've arrived, I'm in retirement, and now it's time for me to go down the hill, the second part of my life, and spend this money, the distribution phase, as we call it, of taking that money out. And so it's interesting to me that 85% of these climbers die on the way down. And I think it can be tied to the fact that they train harder for the ascent going up the mountain than they do coming down. And we just can't put our guard down as financial planners. It would be a disservice to our clients to not talk about things like sequence of returns and bucket planning and having the proper amount of money in the appropriate places during the distribution phase, during the retirement phase. So love that story. I think it's a good visual in our mind for us to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just kind of goes back to your plan. I mean, you've been planning for retirement for 30 years. You finally hit your goal, and then all the guards let down. And that's absolutely not the case.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not when you've worked your whole lifetime to accumulate this wealth. It would be a tragedy to be careless or have an advisor that wasn't giving you good advice, which most advisors are really doing a great jobs for their clients. So of course, we encourage you to engage with a financial advisor. What are some other considerations? I know healthcare and long-term care are big deals.
That's a good question, and something that's probably not often talked about, especially to our younger veterinary clients that have dreams and goals of retiring before 65, what healthcare cost looks like before 65. And so I think that's very important, as well as long-term care planning. Again, not a fun topic to discuss, but if you don't discuss it, then it's not in your plan, and all of your assets are subject to long-term care.
Exactly. And there are modern options that it's not just the old traditional long-term care. So it's something that we have on our list to talk with clients about and make sure that they have that consideration as well. Or if they retire before 65, before they're too young to get on Medicare, then that's another consideration, is how are we going to fund these years, bridge this gap from age 58 to 65 or whatever. So those are important considerations as well. The last thing we're going to talk about today is estate planning and legacy planning as part of this retirement phase. And really, any comprehensive estate plan will include the legal documents that we ask our clients about all the time. Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Do you have your beneficiary designation set up properly? And you will be surprised at the people who do not have any of those things. And obviously, a trust is not needed all the time. And in full disclosure, we are not attorneys, so we don't draft these documents, but we do want to make sure that our clients have them and have them implemented very well. And we work with a lot of attorneys across the country. What are some problems that you can think about offhand in that topic? Think of a lot of them.
a lot. I think just having a will, again, it's not fun planning around your death, but it just makes things so much easier for your heirs and beneficiaries just to have that trust, especially if you have kids, to just go ahead and get that done. And it's something that's very, very simple to create. And then just kind of careless mistakes that we've seen about not having a beneficiary on an account and that being included in the probate process. And it's, again, something that's so simple to do. It takes 2 seconds. Just make sure you have beneficiaries on your accounts and keep those up to date.
Right. And just, again, working with having a thinking partner as a financial advisor helps you think through these things. I mean, we have checklists so that we don't forget to ask a client and make sure that that's properly executed. I think another big thing there is communication with family. And this can be a touchy subject because a lot of people, they don't want to talk about their money to their children and grandchildren. They don't want them to know even how much money they have. And there's good, valid reasons for that, but there's also, it can lead to a lot of complications and problems. So we really welcome family meetings and things like that so that your intentions can be discussed and that when you're not here, things can be taken care of because your kids knew what you wanted to have happen with a piece of property or real estate or whatever. So maybe something that's not in the trust or not in the will directly, it avoids a lot of problems.
Yeah. And one last thing with estate planning too, I think will be bigger for our veterinarians that are retiring and maybe sold a practice and got a big exit. The estate taxes are about to be cut in half at the end of December of 2025. And so definitely worth talking with an advisor about and even an estate planning attorney just to prevent yourself against estate taxes.
Absolutely. We've got some important dates coming up with some things that are changing, and we will be sure to have episodes on those in the future. Well, this has been a fun episode. Just to kind of wrap it up, some of the key points discussed. Matt, you want to start out and I'll jump in too?
Yeah. So we started the episode with discussing your plan and what's important to you and setting your goals with your dreams and then working your plan from there. Then next, we discussed income planning, sources of income, your Social Security, real estate, sale of a practice, and then some strategies to kind of optimize those income streams and what buckets to use and when and what those tax implications may be. Next, we discussed the sequence of returns, how important that is in your first few years of retirement. We shared our Mount Everest story. And then lastly, we discussed some healthcare, long-term care costs, and estate planning.
This is just a high overview. If you want more detail, we'll be happy to speak with anyone that has any questions. Just I want to encourage you to take proactive steps and seek professional financial advice.
Yeah, nobody wants to die coming down the mountain. Okay.
No.
That would be a horrible way to go, right?
No, well, at least you got there. I was sitting there thinking, well, at least you got there. But holy cow, you couldn't go home and brag about having gotten there. So
Exactly, right. Train harder for going down. And that's what we help people do financially. So,
and the way I think about wills is they're good to have just in case I die.
Just in case.
Donna, but maybe I should have one in case that happens.
we always think we have a long time left. We always think we have time to do things, and we've got to be proactive.
We do. It makes a whole lot of sense. Well, this has been a very good 3-part series. And if you're listening to this one for the first time, I would encourage you to go back and listen to the first 2 as well, because it's a nice sort of step-by-step look in preparation. Nothing wrong with a little preparation. That's always a good thing. Marcia, if anybody has been listening to these and wants to reach out and talk to you and maybe start a conversation with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, our phone number here at the office is 205-795-2013. And you can reach Matt and myself on that number. And then our website, the easiest way to remember it is meetwithmarcia.com. And Marcia is Marcia.
Well, thank you very much. And for those of you who are listening for the very first time, I would encourage you to hit the follow button. It's really easy. It's simple. In that way, you don't have to sit around thinking about, I wonder when Marcia's going to drop another episode, because you don't have to. You'll be notified immediately and you'll know. I would also just say, hey, if you like this podcast, you like it, rate it, and tell people about it. Help spread the word about the podcast. Until the next episode, I want to thank you, and on behalf of Marcia and Matt and everybody behind the scenes at Making Hay, thanks for taking the time to listen today. And remember, you can go out today and make it a great day, or you cannot. You do have a choice, and that choice is yours. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Making Hay podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at meetwithmarcia.com or give us a call at 205-795-2013. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Marcia Miller. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Marcia Miller or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives or RFG Advisory LLC, RFG Advisory or RFG, a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.